Welcome back to another episode of the Boys on the Bench podcast. We are your host. I am DJ Riley, and alongside me is my brother Dalton Riley and lifelong friend Nathan Eastwood. Boys, I'm glad, and I'm also sad. It's kind of a bittersweet feeling to be back from the great land of Thailand. It's a great 2-week trip, 2-week vacation. Got to do a lot of stuff. Got to see a lot of places, meet a lot of people. But I am back to get this show riding with y'all.
Yeah, you
well,
sorry
hell
bastard.
yeah.
You didn't
We're
even
glad you're
invite
back.
us.
Hey, we could have made a Hangover Part 4, dude.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda.
And it would have been a lot cheaper too, probably.
Waking up in the morning, dude, my ass hurts. Well, they don't call it Bangkok for no reason, sir.
That may have been your fantasy, Nathan.
I don't know. That's hangover.
We're talking about fantasy football, my friend. So
That's some hangover shit there, boys.
Anyways, so in this episode, what we are going to do is we are going to be breaking down. So we have some old faces and new places. So Adam Thielen, obviously, he is on a new team. Some other players, Aaron Rodgers. So we have randomly selected 10 of these players, and we have put them in a list. And we are just going to kind of rank them 10 to 1, so worst to first, and try to find their fantasy value, how we think that they are going to perform throughout the season. Now, these players that are going to be 10, 9, 8, we're not saying that they're going to have bad seasons. We're just saying that they are more towards the bottom of this tier of the 10 people that we have listed for these old faces in new places. So
With friends in low places.
come on. All right, so let's go ahead and get this kicked off. At our number 10 spot here, looking at this list that we see, for me, I'm going to say it's Adam Thielen. So Adam Thielen, he is an aging wide receiver. We saw him have a very good career in Minnesota, and now he is on his way to the Carolina Panthers. Now, that Carolina Panthers team is going through a rebuild. I know that they had the number 1 overall selection, get Bryce Young. I don't know that Bryce Young is probably the starting quarterback there. I think that they are going to hand that over to Andy Dalton. I think that Andy Dalton may start the season. I don't know how long that starts the season. So I think that Adam Thielen is going to have a very kind of up and down year. Last year, you can see here that he had 70 receptions, 716 yards, 6 touchdowns. I think that he is going to be a touchdown-dependent wide receiver. I know that most of his career he's been a reception-based wide receiver. We could see that, but I really do see that Carolina Panthers offense kind of being built through the run, getting into the red zone, and then I think that that's where we start to see Adam Thielen's fantasy value spike. I think he's a solid wide receiver, but if he's on your team, I think you look to have him maybe as your wide receiver 4 or 5. So again, his ADP, we have him PPR. This is per Fantasy Pros. His ADP for PPR leagues is 64th, and that means that he's the 64th wide receiver coming off the board in drafts right now for this upcoming season.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, you mentioned, is Bryce Young going to start week 1 or is it going to be Andy Dalton? Who knows? We know that they drafted Jonathan Mingo in the 2nd round, and he'll be a good young wide receiver, but whether it be Bryce Young and or Andy Dalton, their wide receiver room is really not crowded over there. So, he is the veteran guy. He's going to be the guy they're kind of leaning on to change the room and teach them how to transition into the NFL, the young guys. And especially if a guy like Andy Dalton, if he were to start, I could see him leaning a lot on Adam Thielen.
Yeah, I mean, with Adam Thielen coming from the Vikings, I don't know if he necessarily landed in a much better spot. I think that really if anything, it's kind of still neutral. I don't know how to feel about it because, yeah, he was competing with the wide receiver 1 spot, but I never really truly saw him as a wide receiver 1 all throughout his career. I think he always put up wide receiver 1 numbers, but I think that he's always been kind of that complementary role. And coming into the Panthers, I feel like many people are probably thinking, hey, this is his chance to shine, and being an older quarterback, I think that all he really brings is being an older wide receiver. I think I said quarterback, but all he brings to the table is really being an older wide receiver. So I think that, with having younger receivers there, it's going to be a lot harder for him with DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault and Jonathan Mingo, who is a big-bodied receiver, he's going to have, I think, a hard time. And that's a good, projection to have him at your wide receiver 4 or 5. That's probably about where I have him. But with the risky, quarterback play, or whichever way that could go, I think Bryce Young, in my opinion, will start week 1. If not, that's not necessarily a bad thing for Bryce Young. And if you're going to draft Bryce Young in a draft, a rookie draft, I would definitely still take him pretty high. I wouldn't let that get you down, but for Adam Thielen, it's definitely going to be rough waters, even in Carolina.
Yeah, and last thing that I'll add to that is I think even if Bryce Young does come in week 1, there's going to be growing pains that come with that. I don't think he's going to come in and be some elite player to start off, and because of that, wide receivers are going to be hurt by that. And even if Adam Thielen, I don't think that Adam Thielen has the same season that he had last year. Last year, he finished as wide receiver number 29. I think that he does not have anywhere near similar stats that he had this year. So that's going to put him into, I'm thinking, the mid 30, 35 range for wide receivers. So.
Yep. So another receiver that we currently have as an old face in a new place is Juju Smith-Schuster. So with Juju, this is something we've talked about in prior podcasts, with Juju. I think Juju is one of those things where it's kind of hard, those players where does he fit in all of the receivers in the NFL? He's experienced wide receiver 1 play with the Steelers at such a young age. This dude was going to be the face of the NFL. He was coming in, right after the spotlight of A.J. Brown, right? And completely just fit right into that role beautifully. We thought he'd be there forever, right? And now, after everything that's going on and what we've seen in Kansas City, and now he's going to New England, I think, he's kind of nonetheless an afterthought. So I think that he has the capabilities of being the wide receiver 1 in New England, but we also have to look at Mac Jones. We know how that's been, and we don't know what we're going to get from that. And so I think that kind of caps his ability overall. But some things that I thought was kind of interesting, I actually put Juju in the same boat as Jacoby Myers, who they just replaced. They just put Juju in his shoes. I think that, and also another player too is Alan Lazard. I think he's that type of player. I just don't think they're good receivers. I just don't think they're great receivers for their teams. And what's crazy about all 3 of those receivers I just named, they just got the same contract. Did y'all know that? They all 3 just signed a 3-year, $33 million contract.
That is crazy.
That puts them relatively in the same boat. So in my case, what I'm thinking is Juju really, was this really a good deal, like, to get rid of Jacoby Myers? And let's not forget, they're only 2. Like, I think Juju, one is 2 weeks older, Juju and Jacoby Myers. There's only a 2-week difference in age, so it's not like it's an age thing, So I don't think there's much of an injury history with either one of them either. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. At the end of the day, if Jacoby Myers couldn't get it done and be, a wide receiver 1 for your team, I don't think Juju will either. I think he could still be a wide receiver 2, but realistically, wide receiver 3 is kind of what I'm shooting for.
Absolutely. I think he's going to have a very similar career to what Jacoby Myers had. He had some kind of boom weeks, but then also it was like, I should not have started him. So I know Mac Jones.
Quarterbacks.
Yeah, as I was saying, I know Mac Jones is on the hot seat. He has something to prove, which could work in Juju's favor. But to my point that I also made with Adam Thielen a point ago is we look at what Juju did last year, 78 receptions, 900 plus yards, 3 touchdowns. He may have a couple more touchdowns, but he was in a Chiefs offense that was very pass happy. That is the polar opposite of this New England offense. So I don't think that he has a similar season to what he had last year, finishing as the 27th best wide receiver.
Yeah, and I think maybe the only thing going for him, though, is that Juju is currently ranked number 44 in ADP, and Alan Lazard is 51, and Jacoby Myers is 52. I mean, that's the only thing Juju has going for him is his ADP, but, realistically, can he, surpass that ADP? I don't think so. I think maybe he fits right there in the 40s right there, but I think that he's going to float in the same area as Jacoby Myers. So,
yeah, no, I agree. I'm not going to really talk much here. I'm not, like you said in the past episodes, I'm not a big Juju fan, and I'm not a big Patriots fan. That's solely because of Mac Jones, man. I don't trust Mac Jones. I don't trust him. And I don't expect any wide receiver in New England to really pop off and have a fantastic year. So, like DJ said, it's not a pass happy offense, and that's because Mac Jones is struggling with throwing the football. So, but moving on, next guy we got is we're gonna go running back here with Jamal Williams, and ADP in the standard draft currently has him as the 34th running back coming off the board, and in PPR they currently have him at the 43rd running back coming off the board, which can and cannot make sense to me, right? Because I mean, if you come in and he led the NFL in rushing touchdowns, and yeah, he broke Barry Sanders' record, but Barry Sanders played one less game than he did, so he did pretty good in fantasy last year. He got his points. He got a lot of touchdowns, a lot of red zone looks. And, you know, I assume the Saints might try to use him the same way that Detroit did because that was the way he was most effective. But he is currently backing up Alvin Kamara. We know how good of a fantasy threat and a player that Alvin Kamara can be. So, I mean, it makes sense, but at the same time, for a guy who just led the NFL in rushing touchdowns, doesn't make sense. But we'll see how the Saints can work him in with Alvin Kamara and see if they can get like a good 1-2 punch like they did when Kamara and Ingram were there. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, so for me, it's kind of weird seeing that Jamal Williams transition just from the Detroit to the Saints. I think that those are very similar teams in terms of, I think that Alvin Kamara and DeAndre Swift are perfect complements to a Jamal Williams running back, right? Similar wide receivers, Chris Olave, Amon-Ra St. Brown. So it's a very similar offense. Now, the 17 touchdowns that he got rushing, I don't think that he's going to be able to repeat that. So his fantasy value is going to take a dip. I don't think that he finishes at 13. I think his ceiling is maybe top 20. So I was looking at a couple, you see that 34 number or 43 number, whatever one you're looking at. And it is weird. It is weird saying like, are there really 40 some other running backs that are ahead of Jamal Williams, considering the season that he had last year? A lot of them made sense. So it does make sense. So with me, I think that he's not necessarily a handcuff. If you can get him as a handcuff option behind an Alvin Kamara, perfect. I think that is the perfect handcuff, but there are going to be weeks where he is going to be starter worthy. And I really like that. Now he is going to be touchdown dependent, just like he was last season. I know we saw him go for 1,000+ yards, but I do think that this fantasy season, he is going to be touchdown dependent.
Yeah, I mean, Jamal Williams, and I've talked about this before, guys. For me personally, as a fantasy player, I can't get on board with a running back that is very touchdown dependent. I think that there's too many, opportunities out there than just to be able to score touchdowns. I think that touchdowns are great. Don't get me wrong. We got to have somebody that's going to go out there and produce, but to rely on it is something I can't do, because if he doesn't score touchdowns, then he's a total bust for me, because the opportunities to carry the rock are not there unless it's at the goal line. Well, if the Saints never get to the goal line, which they're very capable of doing with a quarterback like Derek Carr.
Also, their strength of schedule, we see here that he has the 9th in the NFC South. Very bad conference.
Ninth as
easiest. Yes.
Well, and that's something to take into account. Maybe for a redraft that might be great, but I don't know about, for a dynasty, maybe not. But for redraft purposes, yeah, it might be great this year. But for me, I'm probably still going to take someone that gets a little more opportunity and someone that could be more of a threat on every down, or on most downs, than someone who's just a threat in the end zones. Now, I know there's people that have different preferences, and that is okay. If that's your preference, then I'm all about it. So anyways, guys, another running back that we are going to talk about too, that's also an old face in a new place, is Damian Harris. Guys, he's going into a pretty well stacked offense there in Buffalo. Yeah, and he's going to be back there with James Cook as well. So I think that it's going to be a good 1A, 1B punch. I think, with Damian Harris, he's a very stout running back type of player. He plays much higher than his weight. So with James Cook being a receiving back, it's going to be great. I see what Buffalo did. It's great. But I think from a PPR standpoint and for PPR leagues, I'm not really on board with Damian Harris either, because he's also touchdown dependent, just like the last guy we just talked about with Jamal Williams. Damian Harris scored 15 touchdowns in 2021, and then he only scored 3 touchdowns last year, but he was actually on pace to probably outproduce like he did in 2021. He scored 3 touchdowns in 4 games, but then in week 5 he had like a hamstring injury or a hip injury or something, and then Ramondre Stevenson, so, and then it just went all downhill after that. So with Damian Harris, I think he's a good running back, but I think he's a good running back to where Buffalo won't draft a running back next year, right? I think he's just good enough to plug and play and kind of give Buffalo what they need with Josh Allen. So I think that the receiving will kind of go all towards James Cook. And with the handcuffs, if you take him, I would probably take him closer to the 3rd or 4th round if he's there. But even then, for the way I draft, I'm probably still looking for a wide receiver around that point. So I would definitely consider it, but it'll be kind of tough with Josh Allen also being a mobile quarterback in the end zone. So.
Yeah, no, Dalton, I totally agree. Especially, because they have James Cook. They drafted him last year. He was a rookie last year, and they kind of used him as a receiving back, and I really look for them to do the same this year with him, and the same with Damian Harris, because, like DJ has mentioned in past podcasts, that's a very pass-happy offense. So really just look for those 2 running backs to kind of split receiving yards and catches and mixed in runs here and there. So.
Yeah, and I have him ranked above Jamal Williams in this case, just because I feel like he has slightly more potential to compete for reps in that Bills offense as a running back more than Jamal Williams does over an Alvin Kamara. So that's where I have that. Their ADPs kind of are varying. So with Damian Harris, we see him going higher than Jamal Williams in PPR, but not standard leagues. So, and I think that it doesn't make sense. Like we're saying, it's a pass happy offense. So I do expect him to have some sort of catches. He is going to be a little bit more, has definitely a lot more potential to do a lot better in this Bills offense than he did in the New England Patriots offense. So looking at this list, guys, now we are moving on to the next pick, and I am liking Paris Campbell here. So I like Paris Campbell a lot, and I saw a report even, I think this last week, whenever I was traveling back from Thailand, I got this report on Sleeper that was saying that they are thinking about doing Paris Campbell at the running back position, getting him some reps at the running back position as well. So kind of using him as a gadget type player. And I've always seen that potential. I liked him at Indianapolis, but what a crap of an organization. So I think that he is going to have a lot more success this year. Last year, he only had 3 touchdowns. I think he's shooting for anywhere 6, 7 plus. So that's only going to boost his fantasy value more and more as the season goes on. I know that the strength of schedule in that NFC East is very tough. He is going to be playing some good quality defenses very often. So does that worry me? A little bit, but that Giants offense is continuing to add pieces. I know that the Saquon Barkley deal is a little bit weird. We don't really know what's going on with that, how long Saquon's going to hold out, but they also added Darren Waller. So there's at least going to be a little bit of pressure off of him. And I love Paris Campbell here. He is kind of one of my sleeper picks for this year, and I expect him to have a really good season.
Dude, yeah. Paris Campbell, like I said, like it's all about the opportunity, right? And that's what I'm looking for. With Paris Campbell, dude, if you're going to be a gadget player and play multiple positions at once, I think right now he's slotted in at maybe their wide receiver 3. But if you are able to get more opportunities outside the wide receiving position, why not? That's a risk I'm willing to take, especially at a good value if I can get him, right? So I think that that's definitely something that can happen there at the New York Giants. We've definitely seen teams that are mediocre or poor be able to have fantasy studs on their teams, regardless of their strength of schedule or whatever it may be, right? So Paris Campbell is definitely one of those guys that are going to be on my radar, and I'm definitely excited to see what happens with that, because I think Brian Daboll will definitely be able to use him. I think he, like with the offense that's happening right now with Danny Dimes and everything, I think that the quarterback position is getting much better, and I think that only improves the stock for all those receivers as well. So I think this could be a good year for Paris Campbell.
Before we move on, I want to say that Paris Campbell is arguably wide receiver 1 in that New York offense, just because of Isaiah Hodgins. Paris Campbell I think is better than him. Darius Slayton, I think that those are kind of guys going toe to toe. So I don't know if you're talking about in terms of you kind of sparked my interest. You said something about wide receiver one. I wasn't sure if you were talking about on your fantasy team or on the New York Giants. So that was it. I just wanted to say that I do think that Paris Campbell is looking at wide receiver one in terms of the New York Giants team.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with both y'all. He could potentially be a wide receiver one, but we all know that the target number one in New York will be Darren Waller, just because he's a game changer of a tight end. But if they're going to use him as a gadget player, I picture Debo Samuel, I picture Cordell Patterson, guys like that who've done it and been successful at it. And Daniel Jones has really proved himself last year on why the Giants need to keep him. It would be, they can use him as a running back / wide receiver because the 49ers do it with CMC and Debo. So if they were able to do that, it would be really cool and it'd be really fun to watch. And I'm looking forward to it. But moving on there, we're going to move on to another wide receiver, and that is ex-Giant Odell Beckham Jr. The man has hands. He can catch a football. And he can run. He's quick. He's fast. Growing up playing soccer, the endurance. He's always been quick and fast. He did play football last year, but apparently Lamar Jackson really likes having him there and throwing him the football because they struggled with wide receivers last year. Like their pretty much number one wide receiver was Devin Duvernay, and he's a kick returner and a good one. But they got some pieces in there. The OBJ, a veteran now, will help out with Mark Andrews and being a solid tight end. And I'm really excited to see what OBJ can do there. Lamar Jackson likes throwing the football, and it'll be a different offense there, a more flexible offense, being able to pass the ball more down the field and be successful.
There's going to be a lot of personality on that team.
I feel like in a good way, though.
Yeah, no, in a good way,
team.
for sure. I think they're going to bring a lot of fans to that stadium. I think that's going to be some fun games to watch. If they get some night games like Monday nights or something, they'll be fun.
They need to watch out. They need to watch out because the Ravens now have a wide receiving core.
Yeah. Well, I saw a report. I can't think of all the wide receivers on their core at the top of my head, but I think the Ravens have 5 wide receivers who were drafted in the first round. So Rashad Bateman, a couple years ago, drafted in the first round. They just took Zay Flowers in the first round. OBJ was drafted in the first round.
Mark Andrews was too, I believe.
Well, this is just their
first or second.
I think this is just their wide receiver group. They have 5 wide receivers. I can't think of the other 2 off the top of my head, but that is crazy. That's the most in the NFL. So they definitely have some pieces, and it's crazy because, they're on a team that I think it's pretty. I think everybody can agree that is a run-first team. I know Lamar Jackson has said kind of year in and year out that, I'm not going to run as much. I'm going to be more pass-friendly than I am going to be run-friendly, but he's got some weapons with him, and I think OBJ is kind of that true big body framed. I know Rashad Bateman is too, but we've seen Rashad Bateman in the injuries. I know we can say the same thing about OBJ, but I really like OBJ in this offense. So I expect a lot of good things from him.
Guys, I'm so excited about this offense there with Baltimore, and I think OBJ fits right in. Hell, look at the offensive coordinator that's coming in, Todd Monken. The dude is known for just creating space. I think he knows how to use how to utilize explosive players. Look what he did at Georgia. He knows how to work with everything that he has, right? He's not going to just have 1 star, 2 stars. He's used to having 10 stars on the field, right? 11, So I think that him coming into the Baltimore Ravens and bringing OBJ in, and like you said, having all these receivers in the first round, it's going to be, it's going to work very well for Todd Monken. And I think with OBJ, they'll use him to his strengths, and he has a lot of them. So I wouldn't, a lot of people probably still will fray away from that with OBJ and his production over the past couple of years, but this could be a really good spot for him there in Baltimore. So I think it's gonna be really good. So another person that we currently have, I believe this is our first quarterback that we're going to talk about, and it's Derek Carr. And so, guys, I'm pretty stoked about this. He is not getting the hype that he deserves. Guys, this dude, ever since the Pro Bowl, it's like freaking, we saw a little bit, and then it's like we all talked about it. He got a little bit of fame and glory, and it's just like, it's been hushed since. So, dude, I think this dude's coming with a chip on his shoulder. This dude's ready to ball. He's 32 years old. He also got a massive contract, 4 years, $150 million contract, $100 million guaranteed. That puts him in the same ballpark as Dak Prescott and Matthew Stafford. So I think that's what you're going to get. I'm kind of upset about his ADP, though. He currently is ranked at like 19. He's kind of in there as an average quarterback. Go ahead, piss him off. Let's go. I'm drafting Derek Carr, dude. I don't ever draft quarterbacks within the first like 6 rounds, but I'm taking that man round 1. Like, this dude's gonna go out there and he's gonna produce, and I'm excited. He has one of the best receiving cores there in with the Saints. I mean, you still got Michael Thomas. I know he's injury prone, but you still got Chris Olave. You still got you got the Rashim, and then you've got Traquan Smith, right? So this dude's gonna have an absolute killer year, and I'm ready to see what he does with all these chips on his shoulders. So
yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to speak to, as well as that wide receiver core that he's stepping into. I know last year he had Devontae Adams, who is arguably wide receiver 1. Some people can make the argument that he is the best wide receiver in the NFL, but he is definitely wide receiver 1 on most or every fantasy team. So anybody would be happy to have Devontae Adams on their team. But I will say that this is an upgraded wide receiver core from what he had in Las Vegas. So that's something to be happy about. Also, looking at his strength of schedule, again, we have brought it up time and time again, but it's that NFC South. He has the third easiest strength of schedule. So that is something to be very happy about as well. I know that Tampa Bay kind of still has a decent defense. I know that Atlanta added pieces all throughout the offseason to continue to bolster that defense. So yes, the conference that division made moves in the right direction, but Derek Carr should be very happy about all of the weapons around him. And I am also very excited to see the type of season that he has, because I think that 19th overall quarterback is a little bit disrespectful to him.
Well, they'll look at the playoff run they can make, dude. Like, look at the quarterbacks he's playing with in that division. With the Bucks and the Panthers and the Falcons. Dude, he's arguably he is the best quarterback in that division. And so he probably has the best offense in that division. At the running back, the quarterback, the wide receiving, like they'll be. I think if their defense can hold true, and they've always been known for having a pretty decent defense, they're gonna be number 1 in that division. They'll make a strong playoff push.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna cover some stuff here real quickly, but it's like you said, Derek Carr has been disrespected ever since he was been in Oakland, and a lot of people forget that he was a Pro Bowler last year and has been a Pro Bowler a couple of times with Oakland and Las Vegas. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do with the Saints. He's just he's going to do great things. It's an upgrade. I just think he's been disrespected playing for the Raiders, and like DJ said, he has a chip on his shoulder and he's ready to prove people wrong, and he's pissed off, so it's going to be fun. But moving on, we're going to get into another wide receiver. That's Brandon Cooks, now with the Dallas Cowboys. I could be a little biased here, but I wouldn't have put him on there on my list if I didn't see the article and the interview that Dak Prescott did about Brandon Cooks, and he said that he has never thrown the football to anybody who's as fast as Brandon Cooks. So they already have a connection, and Dak Prescott is telling people, like, I cannot wait to throw the football down the field to this man. And they kind of lacked another wide receiver all last year, with Noah Brown, with the drops and stuff, and then that Michael Gallup coming off his injury. So I really think that it can get a lot better there in Dallas. I think Dak Prescott can have a better year now that he's got more reliable targets to throw to, and they just drafted the tight end. So look for Brandon Cooks to be pretty efficient, because CeeDee Lamb's going to get a lot of attention from defenses, and Brandon Cooks is a home run hitter, but he's also quick on their short mid-game routes. So look for him to have a pretty productive year there in Dallas.
This dude has soaked up probably the most draft capital of any wide receiver. The man's been traded 5 times, dude. I mean, started out with the Saints, and then to the Patriots and to the Rams. then to the Texans, was there for only a year or two, and now he's with the Dallas Cowboys. Like, this dude is just moving. But here's the craziest part. Dude, he's been productive at all of those teams.
I was about to say he's been like a wide receiver one at all of them.
So that only means he's not going to produce with Dallas, right?
Okay, bite me.
Dude, I mean, I think pairing him up with Lamb, dude, this is going to be a scary offense. But the thing is, Dallas has always been a scary offense. We know that, but they always show them their puppy dogs. So, but I don't know. I think Dallas is they are arguably the Nathan. They are the best offense probably in the NFL. They've always had such a studded offense, but with Brandon Cooks, I think this was such a great addition to them. And I think he's going to be a fantastic wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys.
They got two home run hitters now with because that's what they use Michael Gallup for now that you got it with Brandon Cooks. So it's like one of them's going to be a man. So
Dallas is scary, dude. They're going to be a scary offense.
I would love to see what Brandon Cooks could do with Kellen Moore, though. But I guess we can't really do that.
We're going to put salt on that wound.
But no, like
coming back from Thailand, choosing violence. Good grief.
But no, I mean, I love Brandon Cooks here. Like we're saying though, he's been traded so many times, and it's crazy to see a player that has moved on so many times, but has had very consistent success. And he's coming from a Houston team. I know that Brandon Cooks, he just finished within the top 50 last year in terms of wide receivers. I think he had a little bit of an injury bug, kind of a couple games. I think he played 13 games, so he didn't play a full season. So only had 57 receptions, 700 yards, roughly 700 yards, 3 touchdowns. Without a shadow of a doubt, I feel like he does better in every single one of those categories, assuming that he stays healthy throughout the entire season. I think that he passes all of those numbers in this Dallas Cowboys offense. So I'm excited to see what he does. I think that that's why I know we have one wide receiver left. So I think that's why he is the second best wide receiver in these old faces in new places. So anyways, let's take a look at these final 2 players. We do have Calvin Ridley and Aaron Rodgers. So coming in at number 2, it is quarterback himself, Aaron Rodgers. So I am a Packers fan, so this does burn to see him on the road, on the move, but he is joining a Jets team that is very good. An upgraded wide receivers core. I know that a lot of people can say it's the same wide receivers core because he took everybody from Green Bay over there with him to the Jets, but they do have Garrett Wilson. So I really think that Aaron Rodgers is going to have a very good career, maybe one similar to what Favre had. I think he's going to do far better than what Favre did. Favre had a really good start to his career in New York, but then it kind of went down the crap hole towards the end of the season. I think that'll be something similar to what, and I'm not similar, I guess. I think that Aaron Rodgers will do a lot better. So fantasy-wise, I think last year he threw the most interceptions in that season than he did. Like, that's the most that he's thrown in that season out of all of his career other than his rookie year. So interceptions have never been a part of Aaron Rodgers' game, and last year it kind of was. So I do think that he makes that adjustment. That's not who Aaron Rodgers is, and I don't think that's who he's going to be in New York. So didn't hit 4,000 yards. I think he hits 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, and probably less than 7-8 interceptions, and that's
MVP
very
year.
good.
MVP year.
I don't know. I wouldn't say
MVP numbers at least.
Maybe, but I think that Mahomes finishes ahead of him, Burrow finishes ahead of him, Allen finishes ahead of him. I think he's looking at possibly a top 5 quarterback, which he hasn't had in a couple years. So this last year, he saw him come in at 13th. So
dude, I don't know, that Jets team is really, really good. I mean, they almost made it to a playoff spot last year with terrible quarterback play. And dude, it's like we talked about it in other episodes and during the season last year. If the Jets had a good quarterback, dude, that team can win a Super Bowl. You know, let's not forget that their running back is Breece Hall. Yeah, he's coming off an injury, but he's a stud and was a stud at Iowa State. So
I will say the one thing that worries me though with Rodgers is I feel like Rodgers' fantasy value has been because the Packers defense has been so bad. And
I was
we've
just
been
about to bring that up.
I was going to say we've been so dependent on Aaron Rodgers to keep us in close games and pull us out of games that we're losing in the fourth quarter. I don't think the Jets do that. The Jets have such a stellar
damn good
defense. That's a
Yeah.
stellar defense that I don't think they're going to have to compete a whole lot.
Well, their head coach, I think that was so smart because Saleh basically is come in and be like, hey, Rodgers, I want you to be the offensive coordinator, and I'm going to take over the defense. You know what I'm saying? Bringing a veteran guy like that, and like when you have somebody like Rodgers, that like Saleh, all he has to do is just focus on my job, focus on my role, let Aaron Rodgers do his thing. That's why I'm bringing in Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb for you. That's something that Green Bay didn't do. I think before day one, they were already doing what Green Bay wouldn't. Right? They're helping out their quarterback. So I'm excited about it. Aaron Rodgers, I have him on my fantasy team. And I I've kind of battled this. Should I trade him? Should I get rid of him? And no, I'm not. I think he's
now
on a
you
much
don't. Yeah, now you don't. No,
he's on a much more improved team, and I'm going to hang on to him. So
DJ,
yeah.
I got a stat line question for you. Is this the first time that Aaron Rodgers will get to throw the football to a wide receiver who was drafted in the first round?
No. I don't. I think not one, because during Aaron Rodgers' career, we never drafted a wide receiver as with him being the starting quarterback in the first round. We never drafted a wide receiver in the first round. But I think that whenever he took over, oh man, I want to say Greg Jennings was a first round wide receiver.
Was he? I thought he was a second rounder.
As I say, I don't know. I can't answer that honestly, but I know Greg Jennings was a higher draft pick. I don't know if he was first round or not. So regardless, though, this is in his time of being a starting quarterback. Yes, this is going to be the time that he is going to consistently throw to a first round wide receiver, and that is absolutely insane. I was hoping that the Jets, with their first pick, went wide receiver in this past draft just to shove it to Green Bay. Yes, I'm a Green Bay fan, but it was so aggravating. But I think it's just because we struck gold with Devontae Adams in the second round. They're like, who's to say we can't do it again? Which carry that same mindset with quarterbacks in the sixth.
I can see them drafting a wide receiver next year, though. I keep telling people that Jets team is going to be a damn good football team, and the people in the AFC need to really watch out. Yeah. Well, what about Patrick Mahomes, and what about Joe Burrow? Yeah, what about him? Aaron fucking Rodgers.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to see what Aaron Rodgers, I think we're going to start to see him at least be in that same conversation. I know that he's kind of been on the back burner when we talked about the Patrick Mahomeses, the Josh Allens, the Joe Burrows. Aaron Rodgers was a couple quarterbacks back from that. I think that now this year we start to see him kind of in that conversation. So, but looking at our list, there is only one guy left, and that is Calvin Ridley himself, the one that got suspended for gambling. So he is coming back. So didn't win his bet, but he is coming back this year.
He bet on his own team, though. Like, that's the shitty part. Like, he bet on his own team. Like,
you're gonna bet on anything.
Dude. Yeah, if you're gonna bet, at least he bet on his own team.
I was about to say, I love the confidence, especially when the Falcons were. I don't know actually how they were in that season that he was betting on them in, but I don't think that they were good. I know that the year before that they were decent. So, anyways, I love Calvin Ridley here. He is going to a Jacksonville team who was very pass happy, I can say, in a very young and exciting group. So I think that Calvin Ridley comes in and he is immediately wide receiver one. I know people are saying, well, what about Christian Kirk? I don't really. Christian Kirk is a good wide receiver, but I think that Calvin Ridley is light years ahead of him. So I think he comes in and he's wide receiver one automatically. And I think that he even potentially has that shot to finish as a top 10 wide receiver, putting him as a wide receiver one on your fantasy team. So I love him. Also, that big bright green spot on your screen that you see, he has the easiest strength of schedule for defenses guarding him. So that only means that he has even more of a shot to have a much better fantasy season this year. So I'm excited to see what he does. if you do not have this guy in your team and you're in Dynasty, find any type of way to trade. Give up some first-round picks because he is worth it. I know that he is mid to high 20s, 27, 28, I think. So he's got a couple of years. And for me, I think that is worth a first-round pick. Dropping that, giving that away for someone that is going to probably finish top 10 wide receivers 2, maybe 3 more years of his career. So I love that value for him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna gamble. I'm gonna take a gamble on him. But anyway, pun intended. But
So stupid.
But here's what's crazy though, guys. He placed a 3-team, a 5-team, and an 8-team parlay for $500 on each bet. Was it worth $1,500?
Ouch.
That's what the sources say, right? So I don't know how true that is, but $1,500, knowing you're not supposed to do that with the NFL policy. Well, I mean, I would have went all in, right? I mean, how much are you getting paid? Was it worth $1,500? I don't know. But anyways, I think that he's a lot more worth bargaining. I think that he's going to be a very good wide receiver there for the Jags. I know there's also Christian Kirk there, but I think he's going to be just fine. Christian Kirk has a massive contract, but I also think that Calvin Ridley's coming in to get himself a massive contract. So I think that this could be really good. He is 28 years old, but I think this is his last chance to make some big money, especially at his age. So I think he's going to make a big push here. You got a good quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. I think he can very well do it. There's not a whole lot of other wide receivers to compete with there other than Evan Ingram. So I think he can definitely get in there and at worst be wide receiver 2 behind Christian Kirk, considering how much money he's making. But I think Calvin Ridley could very easily, they see how much potential he has, how good he is, just like he was with the Falcons, and this dude will surpass and be the best wide receiver there. So,
Yeah, no, I agree. And a lot of people are like, what about Christian Kirk? Well, hey, it's only going to help him, right? Because you're bringing in a guy like Calvin Ridley, who was a first-round draft pick, and he's a damn good wide receiver. So it'll help each other. It will help both of them out. With Calvin Ridley coming back with a tight end like Evan Ingram. So it's some good weapons there for Trevor Lawrence, and I look for them to be even better this year with the addition of adding Calvin Ridley. Finally, because he was there last year, he was just suspended. So, but it'll be fun to watch them. I kind of getting like 2018 vibes when they were really, really young and, a game away from the Super Bowl. So I don't know. We'll see how it works out for Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk and Doug Peterson and Evan Ingram and all them. But I look for them to be a lot better football team this year, just by having him coming back on the field.
And I was saying that's all pipelining right through him, Calvin Ridley himself. So anyways, here is the final list of our 1 through 10. Again, we're not saying that Adam Thielen is going to have a very bad year, but these are our rankings of these 10 players, old faces in new places. So anyways, that concludes this portion of our episode. Thank you all so much for listening up to this point. But we are now getting into a fan favorite section called Bench Banter. So
let's go.
Yeah.
Nathan, let's go ahead and remind him who won last week.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna get into.
Nathan's on a losing streak right now, I think.
Yeah.
It's about to get turned around
because you and Kenneth won, and then we won. So Nathan's on a two game losing streak.
I think
right
we're
now?
up for the banker.
The overall record
I want my money.
like 10-2. So
hey,
let's just punt the brakes there a little bit.
Once you're hot,
we're in the up and up, dude.
Once you're hot, let's see what y'all do today.
How do two losses taste right now, buddy?
better than your 9 or 10 that you've gotten.
There you go. Hey, I'm here to give away hard candy and kick ass, and I'm all out of hard candy.
You haven't kicked any ass.
All right, Nathan, go ahead and hit us with question number 1.
All right. This one is a name this player based off his career. 1998 to 2003, he played with the Rams. In 2004, he played with the Giants. In 2005 through 2009, he played for the Arizona Cardinals. Who is this player?
2005 to 2009. Okay, so offense or defense?
Offense. That's your hint.
Thank goodness.
I'm thinking Kurt Warner. Dalton? Because he played with
Who
the
were
Rams.
Just say the teams again.
The Rams, the Giants, and the Cardinals.
It was only the Giants for one season, he said. I'm locking Kurt Warner.
With the Giants? Did he play with the Giants?
That's what I don't know, but I know he went through a little injury bug where they were thinking that his career was about to be over. So I'm thinking that maybe 1 year there and then Arizona picked him up. Because they did it in 2009. And if you're thinking like 2009 Cardinals, that's whenever they made that playoff push, faced the Steelers. And that's about
in the Super Bowl.
In the Super Bowl. And that's I think that's about the time that Kurt Warner called it. So that's my pick.
Dalton, lock in an answer, brother.
Dude, I don't know. The first person that came to my head I don't even know if he was during that time frame, but I'm thinking like Troy Holt. Was he 1998?
Torrey Holt?
Yeah.
Torrey Holt. Yeah, he played with the Rams. He played with the Rams when they won the Super Bowl with Warner.
But I don't think he was with the Cardinals, was he?
I know he moved around a lot.
I'm not going to tell you who Torrey Holt was with, no. But
You
I know
lock
Dalton
it in.
needs to lock in
Let's
an
lock
answer.
it in, though. I think those are two good.
Yeah.
Those are too good. Okay, Kurt Warner, Torrey Holt.
The correct answer is Kurt Warner.
Hey, that means you only need one more, Dalton. That's all that means.
Let's do it.
All right, whatever. Question number 2. What running back has the most receiving yards in NFL history?
Receiving yards?
Receiving yards.
That has to be, I feel like that has to be like 2010 plus. Maybe.
Yeah, it has to be because most running backs back then they just ran.
Yeah.
Right?
But I feel like it'd be like I feel like
could it be like super modern though? Like could it be like
no.
Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler?
I don't think so. I feel like it had to have been like that Marshawn Lynch era, but it's not Marshawn Lynch. I'm trying to think of.
Yeah, he was more of a runner.
Yeah, I'm just saying like that era of whenever he was playing. But would they still be around?
Would it be like?
I feel like not.
Like Danian Tomlinson?
It could be.
I mean, I'm even feeling like maybe like Marshall Faulk for the Rams. I don't remember if he was more of a runner though.
Yeah, that era. Oof. All right. Oh, Nathan, we need a hint.
He was a running back.
Well, no kidding.
No, I'm just kidding. He would play it on an NFC team.
Well, it's Rams.
And who else
Marshall
did you?
Faulk.
Man.
You just got to think of someone who's good out of the backfield with their hands.
Don, are you locking that one in?
What are you locking in? Anybody locking anything in?
All right, Barry Sanders. This is a single season. Could it be Barry Sanders? Could it be Jim Brown? Could it be?
Oh my gosh, the guy's name is slipping out of my head. Tennessee running back.
Chris Johnson.
Oh,
Chris Johnson?
Calvin Johnson.
Calvin.
No.
That's a wide receiver.
Oh, no,
Chris,
wait, Calvin
wrong
Johnson.
team.
No.
Chris
Still not
Johnson.
Calvin Johnson. It's Chris Johnson.
Chris Johnson. Dang, I was
That's
all
who-
over.
that's
Chris
who-
Calvin Johnson.
We said that 3 times, and he was still Calvin Johnson. No.
As soon as I said it, I was like, I could have named the teams. Detroit.
It's like he did. It's like he did the other day. Layup, yeah, missed it.
That's who I feel good about. I feel like it's that era.
That's a pretty good one,
I'm saying,
Dalton,
yeah.
what are you gonna lock in,
dude. I guess, dude.
A lot of people forgot about Chris Johnson. Dude was a freaking stud.
He was.
What about Darren Sproles?
I don't think he played long enough.
Yeah.
Dude, that man played for a long time. What are you
Well,
talking
I don't think he
about?
played long enough in like that type of a role, like to where, because I mean, even towards the back end of his career, he was. I don't think he saw the field a ton.
Yeah, but that's all he did though was catch the football out of the backfield. He didn't do anything else.
All right, Nathan's
for like
kind of
10,
convincing
11
us
years.
that's it. I personally like him more than Falk.
I don't know. I feel like Falk was a good receiving back, and that's just what my gut says. I feel like I'm going to have to go with Falk.
Okay, that's good then. All right, Falk and
Rams
Chris
did have
Johnson.
a lot of good wide receivers when Falk was there. So
Ain't changing my mind.
okay, well,
all right,
we're
Chris
gonna
Johnson.
go one by one here. DJ, you're fucking way off because Tennessee Titans are in the AFC.
Oh God, I didn't even use the damn hint. Son of
The correct
a
answer
gun.
is Marshall Falk.
Oh, nice.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Dude, that was
Marshall
I
Faulk.
was thinking like LaDainian Tomlinson and Marshall Falk. I was like, dude, I don't know. I
Man,
think he was a good receiving back.
DJ said Chris Johnson, and I was like, "This is a good guess," but dumbass didn't listen to the hint.
I did not listen to the hint.
DJ, I wasn't even thinking about it either when you said it. I was like,
Hey,
I was
that's
going to let you go with it, dude.
all right. That's another win, right?
That's a win. But you see if you can go 3 for 3.
All right. Hit
all
us.
right, go ahead.
Question number 3. Name this player. Played college ball at Marshall. Was drafted by the Vikings, and the last team he played for was the 49ers. Who is it?
Oh. Wait. Say it again, because I'm thinking Randy Moss.
Played college at Marshall.
Yes, he did.
Drafted by the Vikings,
Yes.
and played for the 49ers. Was the last team he played for.
Was that the last team he played for? I'm regardless.
Nathan looks like destroyed. I think it's Randy Moss. I think we can both lock this one in, DJ.
I think it is Randy Moss. I just don't know who he. I can't think of who.
Fuck!
Couldn't remember.
It's fucking Randy Moss.
Okay, cool. Cool.
There we go.
Way.
Hey,
No fuck
dirty,
away.
dirty 30, baby. Dirty 30. 3-0.
Man,
Fuck
it's always
me,
the
brother.
"You Got Moss" section where they're showing him catching a ball
Yeah.
from
Oh,
Marshall.
no, man.
And I'm like, oh,
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
You know what's funny? I think Nathan tried to finish this episode on "You Got Mossed," and I think it just like it got reversed on him.
oh, Nathan, you
Fuck
got
me to
Moss.
tears.
He's like, they think they get 3 on me. 2's all they get, and I'm in this one, Randy Moss.
And
I
that
bet
was
he's got like one. I bet he's got a one-liner he can't use now.
Nathan.
Oh, Nathan, use this. Say this one-liner on me.
I think that's the quickest we've ever come to an answer too.
Yeah, it was. And y'all have had some easy-ass questions.
Right when you said it, DJ, Nathan, you said Randy Moss, and Nathan's face was just.
It's like, no fucking way, bro. No fucking way.
Dude, if you're our viewers, go back about 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and catch that when DJ said his answer, and then look at Nathan's face.
It's like, damn it.
Anyways, thank y'all so much for the listen. This does conclude our episode. As always, you can find out all of our information about us at boysonthebench.com, which is our website. Through that, you can get connected through all of our social media platforms. We are on TikTok. We are going to be posting this video on YouTube, and we are also streaming on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you would love to see what Dalton was just doing with his hands, the only place you can see that is YouTube itself. So anyways, thank y'all guys so much for the listen, and we will see y'all next time.
Later. Pleasure riding the pine with you boys.